Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
Con, great brands are a great story. And it's this whole thing about like literally what does it represent and what does it actually mean for you? And that's a really important foundational idea when people go to think about the power of what storytelling does. It influences people. And this is a really interesting part because when you think about a brand story, what does it actually do? And I think about like, you know, are there brands that outside real estate, but more generally, that you feel really connected with, that you feel like that they almost represent you?
At a human level or just from a kind of a trust level?
Without a doubt.
Why are you smiling?
Yeah, definitely at a human level because we are going through that experience.
No, I know, but what I'm talking about is like I'll only use Colgate toothpaste.
Okay, that's a bit extreme. But if I dropped you into a shopping centre,
yes,
are there particular brands that if I said, okay, sporting shoes, where would you go?
Nike.
Okay, great. And if I said to you, okay, you need to get a suit, where would you go?
I actually don't know.
You do know.
I do. Peter Jackson. No, I'd go to, where would you go for a suit? You go to MJ Bale.
Okay, great. Well, I'd go to David Jones and see what's available on the rack.
Correct, yeah.
And so what the whole conversation is.
Yeah, I understand now.
People understanding brands.
I'm a slow learner.
And so as an example, there's a suitcase brand, Rimowa, right?
Yes.
And Rimowa, they do some expensive suitcases. They also do some pretty normal suitcases, which are not the aluminium ones.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people would know about that. But I will use that particular bag over a Samsonite as an example. Now, arguably, it's about 3 times the price of a Samsonite.
Yep.
But I get 300 flights out of it.
Yep.
And a Samsonite I've tried before.
You get 80 to 100 max.
No, probably 20 to 30, man. Right. I must have some rough baggage handlers.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that now, whenever I go traveling for work, if I'm in a different city or a different place that I've never been before, and I want to try to find out where the cool stuff might be, I often type in Rimowa, and wherever they are, there's going to be cool shops in that shopping precinct.
You told me about this when I went to Japan.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
And so from that point of view, when you start to think about the power of a brand, it's really about connecting with the hearts and minds of the consumers and being able to connect with the hearts and minds of the consumers for both your internal and external customers.
Yeah.
And so like literally, if I came home and I said, hey, I'm going to go and get a job here at this brand. How does mum or dad feel about that?
Can I ask you a question about that then? So let's get it back into real estate space, right? So when we're talking about brand, we're talking about agent brand and the brand that they represent, McGrath, Ray White, LJ Hooker, doesn't matter what it is.
It's all wrapped up in the same thing.
It is. So it's one persona of a brand is what you're saying, right?
Sure. And you know when you would walk into an office and the front reception's amazing, but then as soon as you go past the front reception, they've never spent any time on that.
Yep.
Versus other brands are very much along the lines of, we're going to build an incredible facility because we actually really want our people to feel amazing about this particular thing.
Yeah.
And this is about like when you start to think about the power of what brand storytelling is all about, is learning what actually is your brand. And so this is an interesting thing that, for example, it's about customer experience is equal to brand.
Yes.
And brand is pricing power.
Yes.
So when you think a little bit about it, I'm like, okay, cool, you're going to come and meet me in Double Bay. Mate, I'm going to give you a bottle of most likely Fiji or now Panna because Fiji's gone up, it's too expensive. Yeah. So Panna water, which is from Italy. And so off the back of that, we give that to you. And it's a really consistent brand experience. And so it's not refrigerated, it's room temperature, it's easy to serve, it's quick to do, like we can deliver that. We can't do a tea and a coffee for each person. Yeah. And the amount of time that took for 30, 40 or 50 people in the room was too hard to be able to deliver that at speed. And so we set a brand standard around that. Now, this is the interesting thing is that when an agent thinks about their brand, and particularly when a principal thinks about their recruitment power, then when someone's coming to join that brand, what does it mean or what does it represent?
Yep.
Now, there are some agents who are in a position, hey, I'm going to go and open a real estate office, and they'll walk along, let's say, for example, the main street of Double Bay, and they'll go, which brands aren't here?
Yeah.
And so I'll choose the one that's not here.
Yeah.
As opposed to, hang on a second, like you've got to be really clear about where do you actually want to go to position.
Yes.
So are you a high-end, really expensive, low-volume type operation?
Yep.
Do you tend to be for everyone, as a part of that? Or do you tend to do a lot of low-end?
You know what? It's really interesting because we've got obviously, like most markets, highly competitive areas. And there are a couple of brands out there that are unapologetic that they're, 0.88 Inc. GST or 1% Inc. GST and fund marketing and whatnot, but that is their brand promise. Mm-hmm. We can still deliver, and we only have to charge you 1% or whatever it might be. So
which is the discounting model, right?
Yeah, correct. That's exactly right. And then there's obviously the premium brands like ours where we'd like to think we command a higher average sale price and a high average fee. How does a consumer then, what makes a consumer want to go with a 1% guy or the premium guy? Is it all about the experience? Is it social proof? What is it?
Well, there's a whole set of wrapping. So how do you package, market, and develop yourself so that you are desirable? So when you start to think a bit about it, there was a brand in Australia. It's no longer around. It's since been bought out. It was one called Run Property, if you remember.
Yeah, I do.
And Run Property was really known to be a phenomenal, property management business. Yeah. And the transition of that brand when it moved to its next iteration is that they always seemed to have an issue that they could never ever sell top-end houses.
Yes.
And any salesperson that worked for that brand thought that all they could do was to actually sell investment properties.
Yes.
And so there was a brand transitional error or issue that ultimately that sellers of, more expensive houses would not think to use them. But yet they had a database of high net wealth individuals, better known as landlords.
That's right.
Who owned lots of investment properties and also to own the bigger houses.
Right.
And so I'm questioning whether or not it was actually a failure of strategy. And then the way that they then marketed,
that makes sense.
Then continued to be delivered that way rather than thinking very differently about it. So when you're thinking about a brand story, like what actually is that brand story all about? And so what you've got to start, and this is going to be encompassed in it, and I got to have a look at your business. So we go to a training day, there'll be a whole heap of balloons, there's a whole heap of entry, there's music already playing, the venue feels great, everyone's got name tags, everyone's got this beautiful setup. You might have a U shape or you have a more dynamic shape depending on what you're actually doing. But you're doing that over and over and over again.
Yes.
And it's setting up this brand experience that you're valued here, you're loved here. People are meted and greeted at the front door by often the business partners, the directors, the sales managers, the head of property management, whatever it might be. And you're having a proper conversation where people actually really matter.
Yeah.
Now, in other brands, there's no name tags. No one knows who's who.
There's no training.
It's really, really hard to actually have a proper conversation with someone. And so there's not that feeling that anyone actually matters. And so what I'm trying to get at is I think that if you're going to build a really good quality brand story, you've got to live out that brand story.
Yeah.
So I think about the Josh Phegan brand and it's like, never stop improving. Our whole emphasis is that we wanted to help people to become better than where they are today and to improve their condition through the quality of the conversations that we might have. Now, that brand story was actually set up to be a timeless brand. We haven't had to change the logo in the course of the last 18 years. We set it up to be the Chanel of what we actually do in marketplace.
Right.
And it was kind of interesting because our original brand designer at the day said, hey, you've got this particular thing over here and it's all sex and there's no substance in content. And this particular brand over here is like really fully detailed on content, but there's no sex, in terms of the look and feel and the packaging. And so we want to place you in the middle. So accessible and energetic, but at the same time too strategic, all brought together.
Yeah.
But when you think about that, that's a timeless design of that black and white logo. And we can change the flavor of the day based on the music that we apply, the video that's in the background, the way the video is shot to shift tonality or to modernize the brand. But yet there's a timeless classic that actually comes with that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And that story means that you come to a Josh Phegan event, you're going to get a name tag, you're going to get a bottle of water, you're going to get your fruit salad. You get to come to the Blueprint experience. As a part of that, there's a whole range of things that are actually done to make sure that experience is phenomenal. It will always run to time. We will never go over. There's like a whole range of things that then are built into that brand promise.
I was going to say, they're your brand promises, right? So then I'm an agent in market. My brand promise is?
Well, making sure that you turn up well ahead of time for an open for inspection. All details, including seller disclosures. Making sure that every single property, that you're very, very clear about what actually happens when you make an offer, what actually happens if you head into a multi-offer situation, what actually happens if you're going to be bidding at auction. It's more
of a behavioural thing, right? So
of course it is.
Do I have a price guide? Do I have the comparables on display that, I came up with my price guide?
Copy of pest and building reports.
Yeah, correct. How easy have I made it? So that's exactly what it is. It's the set of behaviours and actions that you want to tell your marketplace that this is the type. I used to work with an agent 10 years ago in the eastern suburbs, right? And he used to have his agency agreement on display with the commission whited out.
Yeah.
And when people would come in, they'd go, "What's the price?" He'd be like, I got 3 to 3 on my agency agreement." Yeah, but what do they really want? 3 to 3. How'd you come up with that? Well, there were the comparables that they signed off on. So That's the price, 3 to 3.3. The reserve, so when they were setting the reserve, guess what the reserve was? Normally 3.3.
Sure.
Right? And then when it came to auction day, he would do the registrations and he'd register them and just go, hey, Josh, good to see you back again. Just so you know the reserve's 3.3. Hey, Con, good to see you back. Just so you know the reserve's 3.3. Guess what the opening bid was?
3.3.
There you go. Can't make it any easier. So his brand promise was, I'm completely and radically transparent and I'm going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth 100% of the time.
So you've worked with them and you've seen them with Compass as an example in America.
Yeah.
And they have probably the best purpose statement, I think, inside the residential real estate industry about, help people find their place in the world.
Correct.
And whether or not you're a receptionist, a salesperson, a property manager, whether or not you're a tenant, whether or not you're an owner, whether or not you're a seller, like it absolutely works. And when you think about that promise, that's really like right up there with purpose, that it's actually on a much higher level. And then the delivery of that is in the day-to-day standards of what it is that we do.
Yeah.
So like everything is beautifully designed except for your price reduction form. And it's just like, and so your internal stationery and your electronic delivery of those tools and the speed at which people can do it in a mobile world.
It's all of it, isn't it, Josh? It's you as well at a human level. It's like, do you shave every day? If you shave every day, then shave every day. If you wear a tie every day, wear a tie every day, right? It's so interesting. We've got our vision for our business is to create the best place for people to change their lives.
Yeah.
Because we're heavy on our internal customers. Our purpose or our mission for the external community, buyers, sellers, landlords, and tenants, is to make a dream come true every hour. If we could do that, then we've built the business that's worth, I don't want to say worth having, but we've built the business, we've hit those milestones.
But people have got to connect with that internally.
They do.
Which means they've got to be reminded of it.
Spot on.
Sales managers, property managers.
They've got to remember when a tenant, keeps calling back about the toilet not flushing, not getting frustrated, saying, hey, our job is to make a dream come true every hour on the hour.
Yeah.
So I really like that. That's a very interesting way to put out the brand story of all about behavior and action.
And so then you think about that, creating experiences for your people.
Yeah.
And so like thinking about what are the experiences that they actually get. And I know it sounds really funny, like in most organizations, they give a cake when someone leaves. Why don't you have a cake when someone starts?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that should actually be the celebration.
I agree.
And that whole idea too that there's there's a guy who's got a boardroom and in every single meeting, he's always got one chair that's vacant, but there's always a label on the chair and it's the customer. So everything that you say...
He sits on the other side so he can see from the customer's perspective.
But I want you to think how the customer feel about what you're saying.
I like that.
And so that then people are 100% customer centric, that when it comes to how we do a price reduction or some of the more, I guess like sticky bits.
It's so funny. I'm just thinking now as you're talking, like I inquired on a commercial building, right? And the response that I got was 6M for the price guide.
Yes.
I was like, what? Like you've got my name, you got my mobile number, you got my email address, and all I get is a 6M.
Yes.
So for me, that just shows that you've got no process, no systems, no care, lack of attention to detail, and you actually can't be bothered.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
Or that you're the 6th M in the James Bond series. But and that whole conversation is that you got to start to think differently about what actually is your brand promise, what do you actually stand for, what don't you stand for, how does that work?
Yeah. Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
The map and the pins was probably the best thing that my dad ever taught me. And he's a phenomenal teacher because you would walk inside of his organization and that was when they had the carpet petition boards. And when they had the carpet petition boards, they had the map.
Yeah.
And on the map, he had like all of the different pins. So this is where the landlords lived and this is where the actual investment properties are. And this is all the past clients where they live. And this is where I've done the market appraisals. And you'd actually like clearly see the level of emphasis and like detail that he'd gone to. And this is well before it all turned into what's happening inside of Repeat sales. We can actually have a look at that in the prospector module. But the foundational conversation is that get really proud. And what I think that a lot of people do is that they build huge amounts of data, but they don't really think about the relationships or whether or not what they can do to be able to increase the level of usage in that particular section of the marketplace.
Yeah.
And so this is about like thinking very differently. And there's a great story. So I have this guy come to me and he goes, hey, look, I'm trying to sell this apartment down in Melbourne, sort of some Kilda-esque, like a 1960s building.
Yep.
It's covered in like all this scaffolding because they're replacing all the windows and they're replacing the roof.
Right.
And we need to sell it. And in 60 days' time, whoever owns the property is going to have to pay the last $25,000 special levy.
Right.
Now, I don't have the funds to do that, so I have to sell the property. So literally, I need you to take it to market. So the agent's taken it to market for 4 or 5 weeks. And mate, they can't get anyone to turn up. Like people come and they drive. As soon as they see the scaffolding, they drive on. Yeah, no one can get past the concept of the special levy. And so he's ringing me and he's like in a moment of desperation, what do I do? And I said to him, it's pretty easy, man. He goes, what's that? I said, there's 19 other apartments. He said, yeah. I said, ring the other 19 owners and see if anyone else wants to buy one.
That's right.
First phone call, the guy goes, yeah, mate, I'd love to buy that. Absentee owner. Didn't know it was on the market.
Didn't know the scaffolding.
Wasn't looking on the web. Oh, no, knows about the scaffolding because he's paying special levy, but wasn't looking on the major websites. Then it says, yeah, mate, I'd love to buy it. Pays full price.
There you go.
And so this is where I'm like thinking about, like, it's not just a pin on a map, it's a relationship on a map. And how does that relationship have other relationships on that map that allow you to be more potent inside of your core market area?
One idea that's rapidly shaping me, there's a really cool Simon Sinek video that's one of our PM team leaders shared with us the other day. And it was literally what we're talking about, the power of storytelling.
Yes.
And Simon, if you Google it, it's excellent. It's like 3 minutes. He was talking about how he wanted to get on an earlier flight. And when he called, he looked if there was availability for that day, and there was, and he called the airline and they just said no. The computer said no, the ticket that you bought, that class, no. And he goes, now I hate that airline. Mm-hmm. He goes, imagine if they had, when I had called through and said, look, I want to get home to my family. Is there any chance I can get on this flight? I've seen it's available. And he said, he kind of role played it out. Imagine the operator saying, I'm going to try and get you home to your family tonight, Simon. So let me see what I can do. Click, 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 click. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, click, 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 click. Just bear with me because it's my job, my absolute goal to get you home tonight. Click, 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 click. Look, Simon, I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to speak to my team leader. I'm going to come back to you. I can't, the system won't allow me to do it because of the fare class. And he goes, imagine how the thought process changed. She comes back online. Look, unfortunately, I can't. It's okay. You've tried so hard. I really appreciate it. So the power of storytelling to be able to empathize and really listen to someone's concerns as opposed to reacting, I think there's power there.
Something that's changing your view.
For me, it's about the power of creativity. So when people are kind of stuck or they're feeling a little bit, like this is a problem. Hey, Con, how do we get you some sunshine on this?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And I just love that. Like what? And so, like, and I love that whole thing. That's like, and I think that, you know, when you go through those questions, you go, hey, what's really the problem for you here? If you went home tonight and a miracle happened and you woke up overnight and it was all fixed, what would you need to see, feel, or experience to know that's actually been solved?
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't even know what the solution is. They just know that they don't know how to handle the problem.
Correct.
And so literally give people more sunshine, build great story brands, have a great business.
I like that.